Hi there, my name is Michael Helwig, and this is Michael Helwig Interiors. I'm a blogger and a space planning expert. I write primarily about small spaces, awkward rooms, challenging rooms. So if you have a room where you have problems, with your furniture and you have difficult layouts or angled walls or things like that, you're in the right place. I do have lots and lots of information on my blog that pertains to all of those things and more. But today it's a little bit different. Today is the first video that I'm going to do for you, and it's all about the biggest design mistake that I ever made. And it happens to be 3 design mistakes all rolled into one. So it's all primarily to do with a L-shaped living room, dining room, and it's based on a house that I used to live in years ago. So let's dive right in so I can tell you all about the 3 biggest mistakes, design mistakes that I've ever made. So are you ready to hear the biggest design mistake I ever made? This one's a doozy, and I made it right out of the gate, right after I got done with getting certified as a designer. And it just happened to be in a house that I lived in. So it wasn't for a client, but it was definitely a big bummer for me. So what I did was I had this house that had an L-shaped living room, dining room. So this over here was the living room, and this space over here was the dining room. Through this door was the kitchen. These were French doors that we had put in. I can't even remember why. I think we just needed to have some sound barrier between the rest of the house and also this living room, because we wanted to have a television with a theater surround sound. So I think we did this for sound, but it was odd because we had the French doors open up into this space, which of course, as you can see here, really takes up quite a bit of this space over here. This was a hallway, and there were stairs going up to the second floor right across from it here, a couple of stairs down this way to the front door. And it was a 1960s kind of mid-century style ranch, split level ranch actually, and a great house. But the problem was we didn't really use the space very wisely. Mostly my fault, because I didn't really think about it the way that I had needed to think about it. So a little bit of a backstory on what I had going on with this space. We moved in with my father-in-law. This was actually his house. He had fallen, was in a subacute rehab, getting physical therapy for about 8 weeks or so. And so I was just right out of my design certification, and I was given the opportunity to redesign the house kind of from the floor up. So basically his room was off to the old, which was the old family room, kind of off the kitchen and down a couple of stairs over here. So the idea was that he didn't have to go up any stairs anymore to get to his bedroom, which was an ensuite, basically bedroom with a bathroom with a full bath that we converted right off of it as well. So he had basically no stairs anywhere. We were the ones that had the stairs, which was totally fine. So my point is, I had about 8 weeks to finish this, and with the help of a couple of contractor friends and a few friends that I had persuaded with pizza and bribery to help me paint, we got the house done in that 8 weeks, which was great. So what I had after that was, pretty much no budget left. So I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, but if you've done a project that was a little bit more involved than what you thought it was going to be, you kind of don't have a budget, left for anything else afterwards. So of course I didn't have any furniture. So we'll get to that more in a second here. But just to kind of reiterate, to look at a space like this is really the challenge of an L-shaped living room, dining room. So basically you have 2 spaces. They both kind of have to function independently, but they're also the same room in many respects, because you don't really have any separation. There's no walls here. It's all pretty much the same space. You do have these awkward angles, which is, something. L-shaped dining rooms are tough to arrange because they have these awkward corners. It feels like separate spaces, but it really isn't. So that's kind of what the situation was here. Big kind of group of windows over here, really nice big windows facing the front of the house over here. So of course you have, this gigantic wall over here, which is unobstructed, but you really can't do a lot with it because it shares this wall with the dining room. So you're really kind of limited to this space over here, which is a long, narrow space, and this space over here, which is more of like a modified rectangle, a little bit more than a square space over here. So it's really a tough situation. So what I did was, we'll go over a couple of things like the mistakes. There are 3 major mistakes that I made with this space, and we'll go over that kind of right now. So the first mistake I alluded to just a second ago was failing to budget. So not having a budget for the space, big no-no. So that's what you want to do first. You really want to figure out what your cost is going to be to do whatever renovations you have to do, and also the things that you need to, finish up the space. So if you need to buy furniture, you need to buy, different types of pieces that are going to fill up the space and give you function and aesthetics. You need to kind of figure that all out before you kind of get involved with the project. So I kind of went and did it just the opposite. I did everything I wanted to do with the space, and then I brought in the furniture. So let's look at what I did. Here we go. So as you can see here, we went to the store, and my father-in-law had a sofa and I think a chair in here before, a television, something. It was functional, but it wasn't our style. So we really wanted to kind of make it our space. So mistake number 2 was rushing into buying furniture. So we went to the store. I remember being extremely tired. It was a Friday night. We left after business hours around 6 o'clock or so. And I'd been painting since probably 6 o'clock in the morning. So I had like a 12-hour day. I was not, thrilled. I think I jumped in the shower and we ran out the door and we hit 4 furniture stores. I was absolutely not in the mood to go furniture shopping. I didn't want anything to do with it. And so what we did was we hit a couple of furniture stores and we found this sectional that we really liked the look of, but it really just wasn't, going to fit in the space. I didn't even think about that because we kind of really liked the fabric. We really liked the look of it in the store, which is something you really, have to pay attention to. You need to measure your space so that you know that things are going to fit. And not get so taken up with how things are displayed in stores. They do that for a specific reason. They make it look like an actual living room, make it look like it could be your space, because of course they want to sell you the furniture, and that's really the whole, purpose behind displaying the furniture the way they do in furniture stores. But as you can see here, you walk in and boom, here's the chaise, goes the entire length of the room. I mean, it was a gigantic sectional. And the L shape was kind of on this back wall over here. We had an old square-shaped coffee table that my partner decided that he did not want to get rid of, so we had to use that. And we had this red rug because, here's another thing, the drapes that my father-in-law had in the space, that was the one thing that he asked that we didn't remove, is because he loved the drapes. They were almost like a Merlot red. They were very dark burgundy, reddish, and it was not my aesthetic. So what we did was we went to another furniture store that same night and we found this rug, and boom, we had a rug that was red to match the red curtains, and was not my thing anyway. We had a television credenza, which was basically an old buffet that we put over here with a giant television that I had gotten off of a Black Friday sale. You gotta love those Black Friday sales. And it was just huge. It was one of the first plasma TVs, flat screens. This is back years ago. And I spent probably way too much than I should have spent on it, but I loved it and I thought this would be perfect for this space. And so we did that. And we had a couple of inexpensive Target round little tables here that didn't really give me any function, didn't do anything for this space. They were just sort of there to hold a couple of table lamps, and that was really the beans of it. Over here we had an old dining room set, which was a hand-me-down. Great when you can get those hand-me-downs, but this one was a little too big for the space. So this table was a little bit too large for this small area over here. There was a gigantic China Hutch buffet that went along with it, and we also had a couple of extra chairs that we didn't have any place to put, so I kind of stuffed them in the corner over here. So if we want to look at this kind of going into the 3D version of what this all looked like, let me spin this around for you. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. So here we go. You're walking into the space from the hallway through those French doors. You're immediately hit with this gigantic chaise that kind of sticks out in the middle of the space. Now there is room to get around it, but I mean, this person sitting in this corner over here has to like literally look clear across the room and kind of turn sideways in order to see the TV. That's not function at all. That's really just sort of not functional at all. Here's the other issue with that. Remember that those French doors open up into the space? Well, guess what? They hit this cabinet all the time. So what we had to do is we had to keep those doors shut all the time, which limited our access to the room, which was now through the kitchen and through this doorway over here. It was actually right over here, and that's how we got into this space. So we had to come in from the kitchen to get into the space that way, and not ideal, especially when you have a room that has two distinct openings. And you know, when we wanted to go to sleep at night, we had to go all the way through the kitchen and then down the hallway, all the way up the stairs to the upstairs, which was kind of a pain. That was really like not ideal at all. So here's, you know, basically what I had to do in order to make this all work. So, you know, when we look at that mistake number 3, buying furniture because you like the way it looks in the store, that's really not the ideal way to go about things. So to kind of review, you don't want to fail to budget. You want to have enough of a budget to get the furniture that you want. This, of course, was my first attempt, and what a bummer it was to really have a no-fit. This would basically be what we would call in the furniture industry a no-fit. Basically, it's not going to fit into the room. If it was a client of mine, they would be very probably unhappy with how it fits into the room, and they would want to return it, which also opens up a whole other can of worms to, you know, getting things refunded, you know, getting things returned. Furniture stores don't usually like to do that, so they make it not so easy to do, unfortunately. That's kind of like that's sort of how it works. And then mistake number 2, rushing into buying furniture when you're not in the mood to do it, when you're tired, when you're not in a headspace to really think about buying furniture and you just want to get it done. You know, wait for another burst of energy before you go and do that. And of course, mistake number 3, which was buying the wrong furniture because you liked it in the store. This, of course, was also a final sale, so there was no return on it because the fabric was discontinued. All these little memories I have coming up as I'm talking here. That was another reason why we kept the sofa as well. And you know, it just didn't really flow very well. So I'm going to return in a second to show you what, you know, over a decade of experience and kind of trial and error and really just understanding space and knowing what I'm doing a lot more, how I would do this now if this was my house right now. And so we'll come back with that in a second, and I'll be right back to show you how that's going to look. So here we are back with what I would have done had I thought a little bit more about this and had the years of experience that I have now, how I would have arranged this room. This is how I would do it. So basically it's the exact same room. I've not changed any of the dimensions at all. What I did was everything is, you know, oriented a different way into the space, and I have things set up, I think, in a little bit more of an ideal situation. So I do still like the idea of a sectional for this space because you really, you know, it kind of, what this is going to do is going to give you a footprint. So basically you have your rug over here. The sectional fits into this footprint because now I have a focal point over here. Remember, the focal point was over on this wall. Didn't make any sense. So I often say that your largest piece of furniture goes on your longest unobstructed wall. Well, this is, of course, a very long unobstructed wall. However, it shares a wall with another functional space. So there is basically an invisible obstruction here, which, you know, makes this a short wall if you look at it this way. Okay, so that really means that your largest unobstructed wall is this wall here. Even though it does have a bay of windows on it, you can put the furniture in front of the windows, and in this situation it kind of has to be in front of the windows because there's really not another way to really do this the way that I think that it should be done. Okay, so kind of reiterate what I'm talking about here. How we got into this space is through these French doors. Now there's nothing behind it to obstruct the opening of these French doors. They actually do kind of fold all the way back, so there's no reason to have them closed all the time, except for on movie night. There's nothing there to get in their way, so when we didn't want to watch a movie, they could be closed up, no problem at all. Kitchen, of course, is over here. Access to the dining room, great. Nothing's obstructed here. You're not walking into a table. You're not walking into the back of a chair right when you're walking from the kitchen into this space, which is important. So to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what we got here, we have our television, and this is a longer kind of like credenza over here. Television's off to the side of here. A little bit of a smaller TV. Kind of figured out now in the last few years that you really don't need a huge TV in most rooms, and that a smaller TV is going to give you just the same viewing pleasure as something gigantic. That's just my opinion. One of those things that people will probably fight me on, but it's just one of those things that I really like to talk about and do. So when you have an L-shaped or a V-shaped sectional like this is more of a V-shaped sectional because they're kind of equidistant on both sides. Having something round like a round coffee table or cocktail table in between is going to give you a little bit more functional space. I put an end table over here with a lamp on it, a floor lamp behind the corner of the sectional over here, and then I did a half round or demi-lune table, a little sofa table behind it here for a little bit more of a functional space because I didn't really want to put another table over here. Now this becomes a clear pathway through the space. So instead of it being, a television credenza here, kind of being met with the bottom of a chaise over here, you've got a clear shot through the room this way, and a clear shot into the room this way and through, and into the room over this way. So everything is totally clear in this space here, no obstructions at all. So there's no table here, your functional space with a table. You just basically turn around, put a cup of coffee or a glass of wine down over here, and you're good to go, okay? Now, swivel chairs. I love swivel chairs because they really function in the space and they give you a lot more opportunity to have a nice classic conversation grouping. And then if you want to swivel it to watch the TV, you can do that as well. So I didn't want to be very heavy with a lot of furniture over here. So basically I just took a swivel chair, put it in a conversation grouping against the sectional, couple of tables, bing bang boom, you're in business with a really nice layout. Okay, so we'll go into seeing how this actually looks with in a 3D version. So I'll kind of show you what I would do again a little bit differently. So I changed the color of the wall. You know me, I love me a neutral wall. So this is just a basic, like very light gray wall. Very neutral curtains that kind of blend into the background, gives me the functional aesthetic of a softness on the windows. Open and close them for light diffusion, which is what curtains are meant for as well. And I did a kind of ombre style blue rug just because I like blue, and I kind of matched the dining room chairs to that rug as well. You can bring in pillows that have a little bit more of that aesthetic. I wanted to kind of keep it a little bit more clean, but you can kind of see what I did here. We'll talk about a couple of things. The rug is great because it anchors that space. Rugs are ideal for giving you the shape for your furniture arrangement. I did over here in this corner by the sofa, I did a couple of nesting tables, actually one set of nesting tables, so that if you do need to take them out and if you want to have the smaller nested table over here for movie night, you're not going to be walking this way, that's great. Just do that because that gives you the functionality. They disappear, they kind of pop underneath those other tables when you're not using them, and that's going to give you some functionality when you need it. Let's look at this coffee table. Kind of modern, a little bit funky. It's got a glass top to it. I love a glass top coffee table in a smaller space because it gives you the illusion of space. It opens up the space so much more. It's not heavy. It doesn't obstruct views. You can kind of see through it. It's kind of got this little modern, spindly leg thing going on here. Same thing with this demi-lune table in the back over here. Half round, great for moving around. It's not super long. It just gives you the functionality of a little bit of a space to put things down. You have a nice goose neck lamp over here to give you some reading light if you wanted to. So it's all very functional. Now I did a wall-mounted system over here, a little bit more on the contemporary side, but I think that it goes with the room really well. It gives you a chance to put some things up here if you want to, some merchandising space for books and vases and everything else that you might want to have on there. And then you have a nice little open space over here for the TV, which is ideal for this person sitting over here. Not particularly great for this person over here, but it was just the two of us most of the time, and if we had company over, typically we weren't watching TV, so everybody had a nice conversation group over here. One of us would be over here, the other one would be over here, or somebody could be over here watching TV. Great, function just perfectly for that. Now going into the dining room space, kind of look at this over here. We have a round dining room table. So round works really well in this space because number one, the walls are kind of close together. It's not a super wide space. It's sort of like a long, narrow space again. I didn't do armchairs because arms will take up more space. If you look at the base of the table too, it's more open. So it's kind of like a modified pedestal table that gives you the chance to kind of, put your chairs in an X formation. X's are great because then they take up less space. And if you look at them kind of like from a bird's eye view, the backs of your chairs kind of angle into the corners of the room. Even if there's no corner, there's kind of like imaginary corners over here, and that's going to give you a little bit more space. 4 chairs is plenty, was plenty for us a lot of the time, and this table would have been ideal. Having a low kind of open buffet that has legs to it so that you can kind of see underneath it and you can see the wall behind it is ideal too. And then a nice opportunity to put a very large piece of art to give you some balance against this space over here. A nice opportunity to have a kind of like a floor plant or something taller in this space over here in between. I'm not a big fan of using rugs underneath dining room tables, so I didn't put a rug underneath there. I think that there's plenty going on in this space where you have some nice texture, touches of black here and there. Here's some black over here. If you look, there's some black over here, black on the table. The legs of the table, the legs of the chairs are black. Little touches of black help find relaxation in the room. Gives your eye a chance to rest. Same thing here with this nice big chandelier. It just takes up the space. It gives you a little bit more of a grand moment here. Instead of having something dinky or small hanging here, why not do something fun and kind of abstract up over there? Again, the drapes on the windows in the dining room are the same as in the kitchen. I like taking them all the way up to the ceiling and then giving a nice full representation of the curtains too. So same thing over here in the living room, nice and full. They're not skimpy. They're billowy and full. I like curtains that break at the floor too. So I'm not a big fan of curtains that pull. That's just my aesthetic. I think that a nice tailored curtain works so much better, especially in a room like this that has a little bit more of a contemporary edge to it. So that is what I would do if I had it to do over again. A decade and a half later, this is what I would do for this space. Okay, so hopefully this was great, and I'd love to hear what you think about the space. If you want to leave me some comments below, that would be awesome, and we'll talk to you again soon. So there you have it. That's my 3 biggest design mistakes I ever made. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I'd love for you to subscribe to my email list if you'd love to do that. Every week I will send you an email that lets you know that I've gone live with a blog or a video, and it's going to tell you kind of all about what it is. And in order to do that, all you have to do is basically click on one of the links below, and you can download my 11 secrets that only designers know, or you can take the quiz. I have a design quiz there as well, and both of the links to those items are right below here. And until next time, thank you so much again for joining me today. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear back from you. Thanks so much. Have a good day.